A story of heart, hope, and the treasures we carry within. Don't miss a single moment. Hit that like button. If you're ready for an emotional ride, comment your thoughts as we unravel this mystery together. And subscribe to join Clara's journey to its breathtaking end. Let's dive in, because the map is glowing, and the truth is waiting. Lara Reyes wiped the sweat from her brow, her calloused hands trembling as she polished the marble countertop in the sprawling kitchen of the Musk estate. At 42, her life felt like a threadbare quilt, stitched together with routine, duty, and unspoken dreams that frayed with each passing year. She'd been a maid for 2 decades, ever since her husband left her with a toddler and a stack of bills. Her daughter, Sophia, was now 19, studying at community college, her bright eyes full of a future Clara could only pray for. But Clara, she felt like she was fading, a ghost in her own story, cleaning the lives of others while hers gathered dust. Every morning, she arrived at the estate before dawn, slipping through the service entrance like a shadow. The house was a labyrinth of glass and steel, a monument to Elon Musk's relentless ambition. Clara admired him from afar, not for his wealth or fame, but for the way he seemed to bend the world to his will. She envied that fire, that purpose. Her own dreams of painting, of traveling to the places her father used to describe in his bedtime stories, had long been buried under the weight of survival. Today, though, something felt off. The house was quieter than usual, the air heavy, with an unspoken tension. Elon had been away for weeks, jetting between SpaceX launches and Neuralink unveilings, but the staff whispered about his return. Clara pushed the thought aside, focusing on her tasks. Her final chore was the attic, a place rarely touched, where old prototypes and forgotten relics gathered cobwebs. She climbed the narrow staircase, the wooden steps creaking under her weight, and pushed open the heavy door. The attic smelled of dust and time, its corners stuffed with crates and canvas-draped shapes. Clara began sorting, her movements mechanical, until her foot caught on a loose floorboard. She knelt to steady it, and that's when she saw it. Osifi, a leather-bound book, wedged beneath the plank, its edges worn to a soft fray. Curiosity tugged at her, sharp and unfamiliar. She pried it free, coughing as dust swirled in the dim light. The book was no ordinary novel. Its pages were thick, almost parchment-like, and covered in intricate sketches of constellations, gears, and cryptic symbols. Tucked between 2 pages was a folded piece of vellum, brittle but intact. Clara unfolded it with trembling hands, revealing a map. It was hand-drawn, its lines precise yet faded, depicting a jagged coastline she didn't recognize. At its center was a symbol, a crescent moon cradling a single star. Her breath caught. Her father had worn a pendant with that exact design, a family heirloom lost years ago. He'd called it the key to our legacy, but she'd dismissed it as one of his fanciful tales. Her heart thudded as she traced the map's edges. Words were scrawled in the margins, faint but legible. To the one who seeks, the path reveals. Blood calls to blood. Clara's chest tightened. Her father had spoken of a treasure once, a secret tied to their family. But she'd been too young to listen, too practical to believe. Now, staring at the map, she felt a spark she hadn't known in years, a hunger for something beyond the endless cycle of work and worry. What if this was real? What if it could change everything? For her? For Sophia? She sat back, the map spread across her lap, her mind racing. The attic seemed to shrink around her, the shadows deepening. She was no adventurer, no hero. She was just Clara, the maid who scrubbed floors and kept her head down. But the map felt alive in her hands, its weight a quiet challenge. Could she dare to hope? To chase a mystery that might lead nowhere? Or worse, unravel the fragile life she'd built? But just as she turned to walk away, the map moved. The crescent moon symbol pulsed, a faint golden glow flickering across the vellum, as if waking from a long sleep. Clara's hands shook as she folded the glowing map and tucked it into her apron, its faint warmth lingering against her skin. She descended the attic stairs, heart pounding, the weight of her discovery pressing against her chest. The Musk estate hummed with its usual rhythm, cooks prepping dinner, gardeners clipping hedges. But to Clara, it felt like a stage she no longer belonged on. She couldn't stay here, polishing counters while a mystery tied to her family called. By dawn, she'd made her decision. She would follow the map. Sophia was the hardest to convince. Over breakfast in their cramped apartment, Clara explained, her voice low but fervent. "It's real, mija. It's ours. Your grandfather's legacy." Sophia's eyes, so like her own, flickered with worry. "Mom, you're talking about treasure, maps, like some movie. You're a maid, not Indiana Jones. What if you get hurt or lose your job?" The words stung, but Clara saw fear behind them, not doubt. She hugged her daughter tightly, whispering, "I need to do this. For us. For me." Sophia nodded, reluctant but trusting, and Clara felt a pang of guilt. She was chasing a dream that might break them both. With a backpack stuffed with essentials and the map's coordinates etched into her mind, Clara boarded a bus to the California coast, where the map's jagged shoreline began. Doubt gnawed at her. She was no scholar or adventurer. She was just a woman who'd spent her life cleaning up other people's messes. But the memory of her father's stories, of a treasure that held the heart of our bloodline, kept her moving. She clung to that spark of hope, fragile but fierce. In the seaside town of Half Moon Bay, Clara found herself at a weathered dockside cafe, the map spread across a sticky table. Locals eyed her curiously, their whispers sharp with skepticism. "Another dreamer, chasing ghost stories," one muttered. Clara's cheeks burned, but she ignored them, tracing the map's first clue. A crescent moon carved into a stone by the cliffs. She was about to leave when an old man slid into the booth across from her, his face creased like driftwood. Eyes sharp as sea glass. "Name's Mateo," he said, voice gravelly but kind. "Saw you with that map. You got the look of someone who's found something they can't unfind." Clara tensed, but his gaze held no malice, only a quiet knowing. He leaned closer, tapping the map's crescent moon. "My abuela told me about that symbol, said it marked the path to the Starvale cache, a treasure hidden by folk who came before. Your kin, maybe. It's no myth, girl, but it's no picnic either. The path tests you." His voice softened, and Clara saw grief in his eyes. "Lost my brother to that same hunt years ago. He believed, like you do." Clara's throat tightened. Mateo's loss mirrored her own. Her father's death had left her anchorless, his stories her only tether to him. She reached across the table, squeezing Mateo's hand. "I'm sorry," she said, "but I have to try. For my daughter. For myself." Mateo nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "Then go to the cliffs at dusk. Find the stone. But Clara, trust your heart, not just the map." He slipped her a small, carved pendant, a crescent moon cradling a star. "For luck," he said, and was gone before she could thank him. Dusk painted the cliffs in hues of amber and indigo as Clara reached the rugged shoreline. The map's coordinates led her to a jagged outcrop, where waves crashed like warnings. She scanned the rocks, her pulse racing, until she spotted it. A smooth stone, half buried in sand, etched with the crescent moon. Her fingers brushed the carving, and a thrill shot through her. This was real. She was close. But as she knelt to dig around the stone, a chill crawled up her spine. The air shifted, heavy with the scent of salt and something sharper, metal, maybe, or sweat. Footsteps crunched faintly behind her. She froze, clutching Matteo's pendant. And then, from behind the stone, a shadow stepped forward. Clara's breath caught as the shadow emerged. A man, lean and weathered, his eyes glinting with a mix of curiosity and menace. "You're a long way from home, Maid," he sneered, his voice rough as the cliffs. He wore a worn leather jacket, a knife glinting at his belt. Clara clutched Matteo's pendant, her heart hammering. "I'm not here for trouble," she said, standing slowly, the crescent-carved stone at her feet. The man smirked, glancing at the map peeking from her pocket. "That map's trouble enough. Hand it over." Instinct screamed to run, but Clara's legs felt rooted. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was Sophia's future, her father's legacy. She bolted, sand spraying, the man's curses echoing behind her. The chase led her into a narrow cave mouth, hidden by the cliffs. The map's next clue pulsing in her mind. Where the moon weeps, the star guides. The cave was a labyrinth of jagged rock and dripping stalactites, the air thick with salt and damp. Clara's flashlight flickered, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. Her chest burned with fear, but also something fiercer. Defiance. She wasn't the invisible maid anymore. The cave narrowed, forcing her to crawl through a tight passage. Her backpack snagged, and in her panic, Matteo's pendant slipped from her grasp, clattering into the dark. Clara froze, grief slicing through her. That pendant was her tether to Matteo's belief in her, to her father's stories. She wanted to go back, but the man's footsteps echoed closer. Tears stung her eyes as she pressed on. The loss a fresh wound. She'd lost so much already. Her father to illness when she was 16. Her dreams of painting to the grind of survival. As a child, she'd sit on his lap, listening to tales of the Starvale cache, a treasure of art and relics hidden by their ancestors. "It's in your blood, Clara," he'd said, his crescent star pendant glinting. She'd stopped believing after he died, burying her grief in practicality. Now, crawling through this cave, she felt him again, urging her forward. The passage opened into a cavern, its ceiling glittering with bioluminescent algae, like a star field. At its center was a stone plinth, etched with a riddle. "Name the sorrow that binds the moon to the star." Clara's mind raced. The map's clues, her father's stories, they all pointed to family, to love and loss. Her sorrow was her father's death. The moment her world dimmed. Tentatively, she whispered, "Grief." The plinth rumbled, revealing a hidden slot where water dripped like tears. "The moon weeps." She pressed the map into the slot, and the cavern shook, stalactites crashing around her. A trap. The ground split, and Clara lunged for a ledge, her fingers scraping rock. Below, the man's shout cut off as stones buried him. Clara's heart twisted. She hadn't wanted this, but survival left no room for regret. She pulled herself up, gasping, only to realize her backpack was gone, lost in the collapse. With it went her food, her water, her safety. She was alone now, truly, with only the map and her will. Exhausted, Clara stumbled forward, the cavern's glow guiding her to a stone wall. Carvings covered it, constellations, gears, and at the center, a crescent moon cradling a star. She touched it, and the wall groaned, sliding to reveal a door of ancient wood, its surface inlaid with a puzzle. A grid of symbols, each tied to a memory of her father's stories. It wasn't just a door, it was a mirror of her past. Clara's fingers trembled as she traced the symbols on the ancient wooden door, each one a fragment of her father's stories. Constellations, gears, a crescent moon cradling a star. The puzzle demanded more than memory. It required her to piece together the fragments of her past. Her body ached from the cave's collapse, her supplies gone, her heart heavy with the loss of Mateo's pendant. But the door's presence felt like a promise, a whisper that she was close to the Starvale cache. She pressed a symbol, a gear within a star, and the door clicked, grinding open to reveal a stone staircase descending into darkness. As she stepped forward, a rustle behind her made her freeze. Mateo emerged from the shadows, his driftwood-creased face lit by the cavern's faint glow. "You're tougher than you look, Clara," he said, his voice warm but edged with something new. Urgency, maybe, or secrecy. Relief flooded her at seeing him alive, but unease prickled her skin. How had he found her so quickly? She pushed the thought aside, grateful for his presence. "I thought I'd lost you," she said, her voice cracking. Mateo's smile was tight. "Takes more than a cave-in to stop me. Let's finish this." Together, they descended the staircase, the air growing colder, heavier, as if the earth itself held its breath. The steps led to a chamber lined with stone reliefs, each depicting scenes of a family guarding a treasure through centuries. Her family, Clara realized, her bloodline etched in stone. At the chamber's center stood a pedestal holding a crystal orb, its surface swirling with faint light. Clara approached, the map trembling in her hands. The orb's light flared, projecting symbols onto the walls. A new clue. The heart's truth opens the way. Mateo's eyes gleamed as he studied the orb, his fingers twitching. "This is it, Clara. The key to the cache." His tone was too eager, his gaze darting to the map in her hand. Clara's stomach twisted. She'd trusted him, his stories, his grief, the pendant he'd given her. But now, his movements felt calculated, his warmth a mask. "Mateo," she said slowly, "why are you really here?" He froze, then chuckled, the sound hollow. "Same as you, to find what's owed." Before she could respond, he lunged, snatching the map from her grip. Clara stumbled back, shock giving way to a searing pain, not just from the betrayal, but from its familiarity. Her husband had left her with promises of love, only to vanish with their savings. Her father had filled her with dreams, only to die before they could come true. And now Mateo, the man who'd given her hope, was stealing it. "You used me," she whispered, tears burning her eyes. "Your brother, your stories. Was any of it real?" Mateo's face softened for a moment, guilt flickering. "My brother was real. So was his obsession with the cache. I promised I'd find it. For him." His voice hardened. "But you're in too deep, Clara. This isn't your fight." He turned toward the orb, the map in hand, and Clara's world tilted. She'd come so far, lost so much. Her safety, her daughter's trust, her own sense of self. She couldn't let it end here. She tackled him, desperation fueling her strength. They grappled, the orb's light casting wild shadows. Clara clawed the map back, but Mateo's knife flashed, slicing her arm. Pain seared through her, and she fell, the map skittering across the floor. Mateo loomed over her, the orb's glow reflecting in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said, and for a moment she believed him. Then he grabbed the map and ran, disappearing into a tunnel beyond the chamber. Clara curled into herself, blood dripping from her arm, despair threatening to swallow her. She was alone, wounded, betrayed. The journey felt like a cruel joke, her father's legacy a lie. But as she dragged herself to the pedestal, her fingers brushed something tucked beneath the orb. A folded letter, sealed with a crescent star, wax stamp. Her father's handwriting stared back at her, unmistakable even after all these years. With shaking hands, she opened it, her eyes scanning the faded ink. And in the letter, 5 words changed everything. The treasure was never gold. Clara clutched her father's letter. The words, "The treasure was never gold," searing into her soul. Her arm throbbed, blood seeping through her makeshift bandage, but the pain paled against the fire reignited within her. The letter revealed the Starvale Cache's true nature, not a hoard of riches, but a collection of ancient knowledge, art, and relics preserved by her ancestors to protect their culture's heart. Her father had written of a vow, to keep it hidden from those who'd exploit it, to pass it to one whose heart was true. Clara's chest tightened. She'd been chosen, not for wealth, but for a legacy she'd barely understood as a child, when her father's stories were her world. Mateo's betrayal still stung, a wound deeper than the cut on her arm. He was out there, racing toward the cache with her map, driven by greed or grief. She no longer cared which. Clara staggered to her feet in the stone chamber, the crystal orb's light dimming as if urging her to move. The letter pointed to a final clue. Where the star falls, the heart rises. She scanned the chamber's reliefs, her eyes landing on a carving of a star descending into a crescent moon. Beneath it, a hidden panel clicked under her touch, revealing a narrow tunnel. She crawled through, her breath ragged, driven by a promise she'd made to herself. For Sophia, for her father, for the girl who'd once dreamed under the stars. The tunnel opened into a cliffside ledge overlooking the ocean, waves crashing below like a warning. A rope bridge swayed ahead, leading to a cave mouth carved with the crescent star symbol. Clara's heart pounded. This was it, the final path to the cache. But the bridge was fraying, its ropes brittle from years of salt and wind. She tested a plank, her stomach lurching as it creaked. Behind her, footsteps echoed. Mateo, or worse, others drawn by the map's legend. Time was slipping away. Halfway across, the bridge buckled. Clara gripped the ropes, her wounded arm screaming, memories flooding her. Her father's voice, soft as he described the cache's power to heal or destroy. Sophia's worried eyes, begging her to stay safe. Her own abandoned dreams, buried under years of duty. The cache could change everything. Give Sophia a future. restore Clara's sense of self. But the letter had warned. Its knowledge could be twisted, used to control or divide. Clara faced her greatest test. Claim the cash for herself or protect it, even if it meant sacrificing her dreams again. She reached the cave, her body trembling, and found a stone altar etched with a final riddle. Offer what you hold dearest. Clara's breath hitched. Her dearest was Sophia, but the riddle demanded something tangible. Her hand brushed the EU Dei letter, her father's last words, her link to him. Tears fell as she placed it on the altar, whispering, "For you, Papa." The altar glowed, and a hidden door rumbled open, revealing a chamber aglow with murals, scrolls, and artifacts, pulsing with ancient energy, the Star Veil cache. But shouts rang out behind her. Matteo, bloodied but alive, led a group of armed figures, treasure hunters, their eyes gleaming with greed. Clara's heart raced. She'd come too far to let them take it. She sprinted toward the chamber, the hunter's footsteps thundering closer. The cache's power hummed, tempting her to use it, to fight back. But her father's vow echoed, "Protect it, always." She chose the right path, not the easy one. They stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind them. Darkness swallowed Clara as the chamber door slammed shut. The Star Veil cache's glow, the only light in the sealed room. The air thrummed with ancient energy, murals of her ancestors' lives shimmering on the walls, scrolls and artifacts pulsing like heartbeats. Matteo and the treasure hunters pounded on the door, their muffled shouts fading as the chamber seemed to hum louder, drowning them out. Clara's arm ached, her body screamed for rest, but her heart was alight with awe. She'd made it, not to gold or glory, but to the heart of her family's legacy. The altar at the chamber's center held a single object, a leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with the crescent moon and star. Clara's hands trembled as she opened it, recognizing her father's handwriting instantly. It wasn't a map or a riddle, but a chronicle of her bloodline's vow to protect the cache, a repository of art, stories, and wisdom meant to preserve their culture's soul. Each page was a love letter to her, written as if he knew she'd find it. Clara, mia Strella. One entry began, "You are the treasure I always believed in. Carry our heart forward." Tears streamed down her face, the ache of his, loss mingling with a cathartic release. She hadn't just found the cache, she'd found him again. But the chamber shook, dust raining from the ceiling. The hunter's tools clanged against the door, their greed a threat to everything the cache stood for. Clara's eyes darted to a mural depicting a figure sealing the chamber, a warning carved beside it. The heart's choice finds the way. She understood now. The cache wasn't hers to keep or destroy. It was a trust, a responsibility. Her greatest fear had been failing Sophia, failing herself, but her journey had forged her into someone stronger, someone who could choose love over fear. She turned to the altar, where a slot glowed faintly, shaped like the crescent star symbol. The journal's final page instructed her to offer a piece of herself to seal the cache forever. Clara's breath hitched. She had nothing left. No pendant, no letter, only her resolve. Then she saw it. A paintbrush tucked among the artifacts, its handle worn from use. Her father's brush, the one she'd held as a child, dreaming of art before life stole her colors. She picked it up, her heart swelling with memories of their shared sketches, his laughter, her forgotten dreams. With a steady hand, she placed the brush in the slot. The chamber flared with light, the murals blazing as if alive. The door groaned, sealing tighter, the hunter's cries fading to silence. The cache was safe, hidden once more, its secrets entrusted to time. But Clara felt no loss, only peace. The journal was hers to keep, a piece of her father to carry home. She emerged from the cave at dawn, the rope bridge gone, the cliffs bathed in golden light. Matteo was there, alone, his face etched with defeat. The hunters had fled, their tools broken. "You did it," he said, voice soft, almost reverent. Clara met his gaze, her anger softened by understanding. "You wanted it for your brother," she said. "I wanted it for my father, but it's bigger than us." Matteo nodded, a flicker of redemption in his eyes. "Keep your secrets, Clara. You've earned them." He turned and walked away, a wide shadow fading into the mist. Back home, Clara sat with Sophia, the journal open between them. She told her daughter everything, not of gold, but of love, legacy, and the woman she'd become. Sophia's eyes shone with pride, her hand squeezing Clara's. "You're my hero, Mom." Clara smiled, her heart full. She'd paint again, she decided, for herself, for Sophia, for the ancestors who'd trusted her. The Musk estate awaited, but it no longer defined her. She was Clara Reyes, keeper of the Starvale's heart. They didn't find what they were looking for, but they found everything they needed. As Clara gazed at the stars that night, journal in hand, a faint glow pulsed. In her pocket, a new map, perhaps, or a whisper of another story. The journey, she knew, was far from over.